David,
Yes,
do your thing.
you got it. These are all the parts that we have laid out that's going to go into it.
Intercooler, nuts and bolts, supercharger we get from Eaton.
The first thing we'll do is we'll press the bearings into it.
These are the bearings that will hold the other end of the supercharger. Is it on? Okay, those bearings are in there.
You see that they're now in. I want to dry fit the rotors. Make sure they spin okay and everything, and put the Loctite on them. And that right hub. This is Nye oil. And then the Century seal, just to make sure that we know whether they've been opened.
Can we put that little marker on there in case somebody claims there was no oil in it, it froze up and that's broken, then we know they took it out. That's part of your cooling system, right?
That's, yes, our T-map to tell us the temperature. Bypass shaft for the actuator.
Intercooler, or cooler. Yeah, it's so simple when you open the box and pull it out and just put it on the engine, right?
Yeah,
That's real simple.
Simply 600 horsepower.
exactly. Simply new tires every couple of bucks.
Phone works.
Yes, it does.
And we're engineering this thing, my guys in our plastic machine make everything and then put it on the car and make sure everything fits and clears. This is the Corvette that we had to put it on and make sure it cleared the hood. That's your wastegate.
Yep.
Pop off valve. Cap it off.
This is for a boost gauge if you want to put one in. And that's pretty much all there is to it.
Yeah, David, congratulations, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Right. We knew you could do it.
One thing I wanted to mention while you're watching that video, if you noticed how the housing, when he was putting the rotor through that housing, all of our superchargers are manufactured. The housings are unique to every engine platform that we do. So we actually create a one-piece manifold assembly to put that rotor pack in for every engine family. Versus what traditionally is done out there is they make a universal plenum and then they bolt their universal rotor pack on top of it and build that boost. That plenum and that manifold design, unique to each engine family, okay, is what enables us to make a lot more power and a lot more torque on less pounds. So it's a lot safer for your factory motors and everything else. It's a very unique system. We have them at the trailer. If you get an opportunity to stop by, we've got a cutaway at the trailer. You can check it out and see exactly how it's all put together. It's a really neat piece. It builds a lot of power out of that manifold assembly. David that you saw in the video primarily is the only one that assembles all of our superchargers. So if there is an issue with a supercharger, we know at our house we'll put it together. You know, we do that with a lot of different products that we do, like the water pumps and things like that. There's primarily one person that does that. So it's, you know, he's very intimate with that product and knows how it goes together and how it functions.
Sorry to interrupt, one of the things that make our superchargers very unique is that we actually utilize that valley that's in the modern day motors. You've got a nice wide spread there, so that leaves a nice valley tray. Traditional 23-degree Chevy stuff, Ford stuff, they just don't have that nice deep valley as far as the older motors. So with that, we're actually able to mount the rotor pack itself down in that valley, which is what allows us to actually keep it down and low enough to be able to use a factory hood. So you save expense in that regard. To go along with that, and what we mentioned earlier is in reference to the front drive inlet and the front drive itself, air likes to spin in a circular fashion, right? Air doesn't like to do 90-degree turns and take sharp corners and those type of things. And that's what really causes the boost in heat. So the manufacturers that are actually mounting the blower up top and pushing down, what that causes then is a 90-degree turn going towards the heads and then another 90-degree turn going into the heads. So they'll have to have 8 to 9 pounds of boost to be able to get the same amount of power that we can get out of 5 because of the way that we go up and around and just doing a circular pattern. With that circular pattern, it gives us a nice long runner length. So as you guys all know, long runner length means lots of torque. So when you look at our torque curves, you'll see that our torque curves are very flat. These are just a couple of the applications, and I'll let Mike go over that, but all of the foundation of our superchargers are based upon that bottom entry, pushing the air up and around to get the most efficient way possible.
I mean, by inverting that supercharger assembly is how we're able to get the runner length that we get. Like on a Ford, we're almost 17 inches of runner length on a Ford application. The GMs were about 12 inches of runner length that we've incorporated into that housing that you saw him putting together. There's 12 inches of intake runner in that supercharger housing. So I mean, by inverting it like that, it enables us to get that extra length of intake in there and develop that low end torque really nicely with low boost. Because boost is a sign of restriction. If you have to use a lot of boost, you got restrictions somewhere that you're trying to push by. Okay. What we wanted to cover in the seminar, we advertised the seminar as new product. So some of the new products that we have for this year, along with our Corvette, Camaros, and Mustangs that we've done, some of the new ones that we're introducing this year, we're going to have the 11 to actually 13 now, Charger Challenger 300s, all your 5, 7, 6, 4 platforms. We're just in the process of releasing the tunes for the 13s. Same unit, same kits. Don't have any numbers will be about the same on that 6.4 system as well. But if you look at the gains that you get, and keep in mind that what the numbers you're seeing there, nothing else on that vehicle has changed. We didn't change exhaust. We didn't put headers on it. We didn't put a cold air intake. We didn't do anything else. It's simply putting that supercharger system on there, and that's the gain you're going to get with no other modifications to the car. And extremely safe on the stock bottom end of the motor. Okay? And those numbers are produced with what we call our emissions legal kits. They come with a calibration tuner, everything else you need. And you're talking from factory, if you look at like the 5.7, you know, we're increasing almost 140 horsepower at the tire. On a factory, you know, 140 horse on 333 horses is huge. Okay, and you'll see more on a lot of stuff that we publicize out there. We're going to have more rear wheel horsepower numbers out there because that's what everyone wants to know, what's at the tire. So we're trying to get more of that out there as well as the flywheel stuff.
How's my mileage going to be when you do that?
Funny you asked that. When you saw the video and he was putting in that bypass valve, he called it, what we do, that bypass valve is unique to us. We integrate it into the actual manifold assembly. Because we invert that supercharger, that top section is where you build pressure. Before it goes after, you know, the intercoolers right off the rotors, the intercoolers are taking that air charge and cooling it down immediately. And then it's pressurized through that top section and down to the runner. What that bypass valve does in normal driving operations, okay, the engine vacuum will open that bypass valve and doesn't allow that top side to build pressure. So in essence, you're basically free spinning rotors at that point in time, okay? And it's very minimal draw on the engine, so your gas mileage is barely affected or not affected at all. Similar, kind of like like an idle bypass or a pop off, where it doesn't, you know, all it takes is whatever effort it takes to spin that rotor pack free spin.
The nice part about that too is the way you tip into it. So your normal daily driving stuff. So when you're cruising down the road, you got the cruise set, you're 70 miles an hour. There's no load in the motor, right? So with that, you're in a vacuum state. So you're a nice, easy mileage. Now, as soon as you put your foot into it, your vacuum goes down, that's when that valve closes, and that's when you go into boost and you get your power. It's a nice smooth transition, so you don't have to worry about it being jerky or harsh. When you get into some of the centrifugal blowers or even turbos, they can come on really hard, really fast, and it feels like nitrous almost. We don't have that. It feels literally like a big block and a nice stable drivability with the superchargers when they actually engage. The question is, where's the bypass picking that up? And literally what that is it's a vacuum. It's below the rotor pack, and it's a vacuum load point. So it's just like a vacuum gauge.
Just like manifold vacuum.
Manifold vacuum. That's exactly what it is.
It's just picking up a standard manifold vacuum is all it is. So when you're cruising along at 65 mile an hour, you're still, on a standard stock car, you're still probably pulling, what, 14, 16 inches of vacuum? Mm-hmm. So it's going to keep that open. So it doesn't let that rotor pack build boost. There's no resistance against the rotor, so they're just free spinning. And then as soon as that vacuum drops on your manifold, that gate closes off, and now, because it's a positive displacement rotor, those rotors are always spinning. No matter what you're doing, that rotor's spinning. But now that you close that gate, now it can't release that pressure anymore, so now it starts building. And the build it's very smooth transition with the runner design and everything else that's incorporated in the engineering that's in that unit. The transition is smooth. It's like stock. It's very nice. I mean, we both have superchargers on our own personal vehicles. It's one of the perks. Okay?
It's kind of like, do you remember the old Mad Max movie? Where the guy flipped the switch, right? He had normal motor, and he flipped the switch, and all of a sudden he's got boost. That's exactly right. Yeah. It's the closest thing that we could do without having a clutch and trying to do all that crazy stuff, and actually having it and maintaining drivability.
Now we got a little Mad Max unit that I'll show you here later, which we actually have at the trailer, but it's a cool new piece that we're doing.
Yes.
You want to go to the next slide? One of the new things for this year that we're doing is we're taking some of our most popular kits, like the Mustang 4.6 and Coyote motor packages, and we're offering a stage 2 kit. And that's for the individual who doesn't care about emissions legality, all he wants is horsepower, okay, but doesn't want to get into rebuilding the bottom end of his motor or anything like that. So what we're doing is we're offering our stage 1 kit, which our stage 1 kit is our normal emissions legal kit, and then our stage 2 kit it's just for the horsepower numbers, whatever you want to do. What we do in the stage 2 kit, the main difference is we do a different pulley size, a different calibration, and we throw a cold air intake onto it. Okay, so we're trimming it up a little bit better, throwing a little more boost at it, but still well safe on that factory bottom end. Okay, and if you look at our stage 2 kit on the 5-liter, I mean, we're giving you almost 200 horsepower more. In the stage 2, out of the box, bolt on, do nothing else to the car, drive it.
We offer that stage 2 kit separately, so if a guy has just a stock 5-liter and he wants to go right to the big number, you can buy it that way, or if you already have a stage 1 kit and you just want to change that, you can actually buy just the parts and pieces that will make it into the stage 2 as well. So we're offering both options there.
We're going to be carrying this stage 1, stage 2, competition for professional tuner stages throughout the whole line eventually. The Mustang was an obvious platform to jump into immediately because it's just such a popular selling kit for us. Any questions on the stage 2 kits? Okay. And of course, we wouldn't be doing our job if we weren't introducing something for the new 2014 Stingrays. So basically that whole engine family platform, the new Gen 5 LT1 stuff, and the Ecotech platform, we're going to have superchargers out, which the Ecotechs are with the new 8 cylinders that are going in the trucks and SUVs. We have that Stingray out in California with a supercharger on it. We were one of the first ones at the SEMA show this year that had a supercharger on a new LT1 at the show, ready to go, and it actually ran. That has been on that car since before Christmas, and probably we've put 3,000 miles on that car already. Initial numbers where we're probably going to launch that Corvette kit is going to be about, published numbers, we're probably going to shoot about 624, 625. And that'll be with all bone stock factory components, factory fuel system, factory everything. One of the limitations on that car, of course, is that the factory direct injection fuel system. We've gotten more horsepower out of it, but we feel 624, 625 is going to be a safe place to be. And that'll also put you at about 600 foot-pounds of torque. Okay? It's the same as with the rest of our E4 systems. They fit under stock factory hoods. So you just spend $70,000 on your new Corvette, you're not going to have to buy a new hood. This thing will bolt right on underneath your stock hood, and away you go. It has a whole new look to it. A little different than that black lid that we have on the previous years. It's a whole new design because of the setup. And in the catalogs, there is a picture of the new one as well, so you can kind of get an idea of what that was. Same setup with the Eaton rotor pack in there with a 100,000-mile oil service interval. And the other big thing with all of our emissions legal kits that we sell, all of our stage 1 kits, there is a supplemental warranty that's available that your customer or yourself can purchase. And that kit's offered through a third-party company. And what it is it basically piggybacks your factory drivetrain warranty. All your, covers the engine, transmission, rear end, all internal lubricated parts, just like a standard GM warranty would. And it's a one-time fee. You pick your level of coverage that you want, and there's no deductible on it. So the guy puts it in his brand new $70,000 Corvette, goes out and blows a tranny out of it because no one knew how the new trannies were. Goes to a dealer and he says, well, you got a supercharger on this, we're not covering anything. Call this 800 number and they'll take care of it. So it's a nice peace of mind. We haven't had to use it that much for our customers, but the guys that have had to use it, they've had really no problems with it at all. It's a great company to work with.
We have pulleys that are available. We have 7 different pulley sizes, so you can take that thing and spin it all the way up to 15, 18 pounds of boost, just depending on cubic inches. There's a lot of options in that regard. We also have a different look that you'll see at the booth as well. It's actually on the catalog. That catalog cover you'll see. It's actually a 10-rib setup as well. So if you want to do that 10-rib pulley, we have that option. On the new Corvette, it's actually a separate drive up front because there's so much room between the radiator and the motor that we're actually able to use a separate pulley system. So you can just bolt on the dampener, bolt on the top pulley, and run that separately. So that makes it very unique as well and advantageous to actually run a 10-rib setup. It's all about perception, right? You look at it and it's all, what's it look like? How's it look? I want the cool factor. Yeah, I want it to go fast, but how's it look ultimately? That's an ego thing. So we want to feed that need, so to speak.
One of the big things that our engineers focus on is keeping the look. I mean, we're all enthusiasts, okay? So keeping the look of when you open the hood, how does it look, okay? Some aftermarket companies with superchargers or blowers that are out there, when you open the hood, there's brackets and bolts and sticking out, and there's a bracket on the front that's got a million holes drilled in it, and you kind of look at it, you can tell, yeah, something's goofy. We had this car at SEMA with our prototype on it, and people walked up and going, is there a supercharger on that? And it looks like it's meant to be there. The custom form hoses, everything that we do for the kits, it looks factory. Okay. Now on the flip side of that, some guys don't like that factory look. They want to open the hood and that thing to scream at you. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we've got one for that too. But what we actually did, the Camaro crowd seems to be one that wants more aggressive looking. So we actually launched a new style lid for just the Camaros this year. So it kind of gives it more of an aggressive look. It's the same supercharger unit, same housing, same everything, just a different lid.
The supercharger applications range, as far as for Chevys, from 04 all the way on up to 14. And that's literally your 4H, your 5.3s, your 6 liters, your 6.2s. We have all those applications covered. That's both in the truck side or SUV side, as well as the Camaro and Corvette. On the Ford side of things, it's 03 on up to 14. We've got all applications that are V8 in reference to the 4.6, the 5 liter, the 5.4. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. And then on the Hemi side of things, between the 5.7, the 6.1, and the 6.4, we've got from 08, I believe it is,
08 to
up to 15, or excuse me, 14 covered. So we've got a lot of applications there. When you start thinking about trucks and SUVs and towing and race cars and all the above, there's a lot of opportunities there for these type of superchargers.
Now, along the lines on the E-Force line, we also came out with, for the guys who are doing these conversions, okay, you got some guy in there with his 57 and he decides he wants to go LS, okay? We offer a universal package that will fit whatever platform heads that you have that you're running on that LS or that Coyote block. We also offer crate engines that are supercharged crate packages done out of the box, electronics, everything you need in one package. So you can do those swap outs as well too. Now on the universal ones, like I said, we're doing them that'll match up to any set of, from all the different Gen LS blocks, okay? That supercharger will bolt onto it. We have one that's meant for an LS3 setup that comes with a universal tune, so you could drop it in. You've got the tune already done. You wired up everything else ready to go. The other ones you'd have to have custom tuned once you got them set up. But we do have that available as well. So it's not just a late model vehicle. You're doing a 5 liter Coyote swap into some guy's old Fairlane. You can get a supercharger put on.
Any other questions on the E-Force side of things before we move on to the next section? All right, Greg?
Get back in your car and enjoy the ride by replacing your carburetor with Edelbrock's E-Street EFI system. With the broadest range of applications available, the self-tuning throttle body fuel injection system installation is as simple as swapping your square bore 4150 style flange carburetor and then selecting one of Edelbrock's 3 fuel system kits. Ready to run right out of the box, Edelbrock's E-Street EFI system includes preloaded software in the ECU to get you started. Then with the help of a wide-band O2 sensor that accurately monitors the air-fuel ratio, the system automatically adjusts and fine-tunes the ratio to optimize for your particular application. The preloaded software in the tablet PC allows for further fine-tuning with the ability to make adjustments and monitor system performance without a laptop computer. All controls are integrated right into the touchscreen unit, and no tuning experience is necessary. Thanks to wireless Bluetooth connectivity between the ECU and the touchscreen, the monitor can be mounted anywhere, or not mounted at all. The Edelbrock E-Street EFI system throttle body comes fully assembled with fuel injectors, fuel rails, and linkage. A preloaded engine control unit, 7-inch touchscreen tablet PC, high-quality wiring harness, wideband O2 sensor, and installation instructions are also included to ensure ease of installation. Plus, the premium quality wiring harness is plug and play. All connectors come pre-terminated for easy routing and installation. Planning for future engine upgrades? No problem. The Edelbrock E-Street EFI system will automatically adapt for those upgrades and optimize your fuel economy and performance. All this from a name you trust that's been delivering high-performance fuel injection systems for over 30 years. Edelbrock E-Street Fuel Injection, the most value for your hard-earned dollar and made in the USA. Get yours from Edelbrock retailers.
We were just a touch late to market, but being a touch late allows us to actually analyze the other folks that are out there and just see strengths and weaknesses and see where we really need to improve upon. Listen to folks, listen to customers, see where challenges and hurdles were. And with that, one of the things that we heard a lot about was the simple fact that you've got a 1-inch by 1-inch gondola to work with to do the tuning, and it's got to be attached to the wire harness. So when you're working with your wire harness, you've got it all tucked away and it's nice in the car. You've got to have this wire that's accessible to be able to do the programming, the dialing in, the tuning, those type of things. And granted, self-learned, so it's minimal, but it's still one of those, it's a challenge. It's a little challenge, but it's a challenge. We looked at our demographic and we said, you know, there's a lot of folks out there, our typical demographics anywhere from 40 to 70. That's most of our people that have discretionary income that can afford to do this. And I don't know about you, but my eyes aren't the best at the way they used to be. And that little gondola and trying to figure out how to do that, and my big old monkey paws and trying to frickin' do this little thing and tune it in makes it a challenge. So what we decided to do was take a 7-inch, literally tablet, so you're talking something about this big, and be able to put all of your parameters into that tablet. So as I'm standing over here and my ECU is wired into my car, I turn the key onto the car, and now I have connectivity to the ECU without having to be attached to the wire harness. Just one advantage. So it's a wireless setup, it's via Bluetooth. It allows you to do any of your calibrations right on through that tablet. So once you're done with that tablet, and you've done everything you want to do, you can pass that on to your wife, you can give it to your kids. It's a fully functional tablet. So that's the nice part about it as well, so it's a little added value to it. So that's one aspect.
Now the tablet also, not to interrupt, but the tablet also becomes an active gauge monitor. So there is an actual windshield mount and everything else comes in the kit with it. And you can actually put that up, and like it showed on the video, it'll monitor every sensor that's in that thing and tell you exactly what's happening, what it's reading. And it's also a good troubleshooter if you're having issues. Maybe you got a fuel pressure problem or something like that. That this will help you diagnose it as well. And the tablet, it did say in the video, but the tablet is included in the kit. It's not an additional purchase.
Correct. The nice part too is it actually comes with a windshield mount suction cup. You can literally put it right up into the windshield and be monitoring your vitals while you're driving down the road. And again, being wireless, you don't have to run a wire up through your dash and figure out how to do this. It's just, we've got enough stuff going on in the car, let's simplify it. So that's a real advantage in that regard. So you can watch your air-fuel ratios. You can see where it's actually dialing into. You can watch what your fuel pump's doing, what your coolant temps are, what your vacuums are, what your RPMs are, where your TPS sensor is. I mean, it's a fully functioning dash panel That'll tell you everything that's going on with the motor, water temps as well. So to kind of get into the meat of the subject here, you've got your main wiring harness, and it's a fully functional weather pack wiring harness. It literally has a weather seal on it. It's a quick disconnect, so you've got one harness that plugs into the ECU. It's a nice compact ECU as well. Some that are out there are big long ECUs and deep, and you're trying to find a spot to mount them can be a challenge. So we wanted to make sure to go with a small potted style ECU to be able to just keep it nice and compact. Next thing you get into is you've got your fuel pump regulators, or excuse me, your fuel pump relays, you've got your O2 sensors, you've got your, this is actually fully labeled, so you've got your TAC input here, so this will be for your ignition side of things. As you work your way across, you've got one sensor that's not on the throttle body, and you have a second sensor here, that's your coolant temp sensor. That's not on the throttle body. All the rest of the sensors are integrated directly onto the throttle body itself. So your injectors, your IAC, your TPS, your map sensor, your air temp, all of that is integrated right into the throttle body itself. So once you get this all plumbed in, a lot of the questions, sorry you can't see it, but when we get done, come on up and take a look at the linkage. You'll see it's just like a carburetor. So if we pull your carburetor off, pull all your linkages off, bolt it right back on here, you set this on, it'll all hook right back up. The key thing with throttle body injection is how the fuel is actually sprayed into the plenum. You see a lot of the other manufacturers are out there. One has them spraying upwards and going through the boosters. One has them coming down through the boosters, but above the throttle blades. We actually spray ours below the throttle blades. And the reason we spray it below the throttle blades is those microseconds of transition time frame. When you spray it up through and on the boosters, you've got a high pressure system. So now you've got 60 PSI of fuel pressure at idle that is literally spraying down onto the throttle blades at idle. You can actually stare across some of those and you'll see fuel bouncing out. It'll hit the blade and it'll bounce out. It's coming in so fast and so hard. And what that causes then, when you hit the throttle, it causes an off-idle stumble. So that's real challenging to try and tune out, especially on a self-learned style system. You typically run into that with big camshafts, where that was one of the weaknesses that we saw. Is we wanted to figure out how to better atomize the fuel, better spray it in there, and work with a 106 centerline cam. Work with an 8 inches of vacuum camshaft at idle. Have the thing start up drive and be a normal driver with 8 inches of vacuum. For all you guys, you know that 8 inches of vacuum is a challenge to get to do anything with.
A carburetor especially.
Exactly, exactly. So when you look at ours and you actually look at the throttle body, you'll see a lot of similarities. I mean, as far as the throttle body, injectors, you've got your rails, you've got your feed in, you've got all your sensors and all that integrated in. But really look down through and see where the fuel comes out at. When you look at ours and you open up the throttle blade, you'll actually see the injectors coming through and you'll see little round bungs coming out. What that allows us to do then is work with those big camshafts and also work on a factory setup too.
It may not look like much when you look down in there at the nozzles on those injectors, okay? But that was months of our engineers changing nozzle designs on how to spray that below the throttle blade. Yeah. So then we came up with the best design possible for it.
So working with that fuel side of things and the strategy side of things, as others in the industry have, you have a returnless style fuel system, you have a return style fuel system. Those are your two options. We started out looking at a returnless style fuel system and utilizing a PWM or a pulse width modulated style fuel pump. And they're just not really designed to be mounted on the rail. And they're just not really designed for efficient use aftermarket wise. If they're mounted in a tank, yeah, it's great. That's what a lot of pumps are using today. But if they're actually new factory style side of things, but aftermarket, if they don't have a constant feed of fuel, what happens then is they start cavitating. As soon as they cavitate, it's like running a motor without oil. And it eats them up and shoots them out.
Because those fuel pumps, their lubrication is the fuel.
Yep.
So when you're starving them, and most guys, and you've probably seen it working on cars out there, that when they put an electric inline pump in, they don't put it in the right place in the first place. They put it too far away from the pump, or it's above the tank. And those pumps are meant to pump; they're not meant to draw.
Exactly. Yep.
They got to have that siphon, and that's a problem. And then when you're doing the wave modulation that we're doing to pulse that pump to power the system without a return line, that just adds more on top of the problem.
Let alone the issues you run into with older fuel tanks that don't have baffles in them. That once you get below a quarter of a tank, when you're turning to the side and all the fuel goes to the other side, and then you have a draw. At that point, you have air. You're sucking air versus sucking fuel. That's, you have all those issues to deal with as well. Even with a return style system that you have frame mounted fuel pumps on, you run into those issues. So we sat back and we said, you know what, we need to design something else. We need something else that we can use that'll be a return-less style fuel system that will actually allow you to put it on an old car that doesn't have a baffle in it. It doesn't have any of the capabilities or modernization to it to be able to sustain fuel injection. So with that, then, what we came up with was this little setup here, this little Debbie. This is our fuel sump setup. This thing doesn't look like much, but when you turn it around and you start to see what all the guts that are in here, what we've done is we've designed this unit to actually utilize your factory low pressure system, or what you currently have set up in your car. So if you have, for example, a mechanical fuel pump, you can actually run your mechanical fuel pump as a primer pump. And what that will do is that will fill this up, it'll fill this reservoir up. You see the floats in here. So as the floats come to the top, then the high pressure pump will kick on, and then coming out of the reservoir then will be 60 PSI. Question? No? Okay. So you have 60, scratching your head?
Exactly.
That's exactly right. That's the exact analogy I use.
Look at your carburetor. And what your carburetor did in that slosh situation is your flow bowls helped maintain the car running while that pump caught up and the gas came back over to the siphon.
Yep.
Okay? This is your flow bowl.
So what you have with that then is you have an in, an out, and this is a big vent. So you've got your in, which will be from your low pressure system. Your out will be from your high pressure system. And what you'll notice in here is this is a return. So this is a return style setup that's returnless coming out. So you can wrap your head around that, but what that basically does is allow you one line out, and then the pump in here is just circulating. So you get away from the PWM side of things, or the pulse width modulation. You have solid flow coming out regardless of what fuel is in your tank. If you have less than a quarter tank and you take a turn and your mechanical pump's got drawing air, it doesn't matter because you have your fuel bowl here. So this is the kit. This is what we sell with our returnless style fuel systems. So if you order a 3606 fuel system or kit, you'll get everything you see. You'll get the tablet as well, as Mike had noted, and then you'll get this fuel sump. So this fuel sump's this is a $500 item just by itself, but it's included with this kit. So here's the answer to your question. That's a great question. So what it comes down to is your factory fuel system. Say you have a mechanical pump right now, mechanical pump and a carburetor. If you're driving along and it's making enough flow for the carburetor, it has enough volume to be able to sustain that. It's a fire hose versus garden hose scenario. So you're going volume from your mechanical pump to pressure from the other pump. But if it doesn't have enough volume, if it doesn't have enough for your carburetor, then it's certainly not going to be enough here. But if it does, then it will certainly offset and they balance each other out. The programming issue, not so much timing issue. When it comes down to the wire side of things, you've got a wire set up here, a little wire harness here that comes with a little pigtail. All we need is the negative side of the coil. You don't need a special distributor. You don't need to run an ignition box. It's just a negative side of the coil. We need a signal. So I don't care if you have points or you have an HRIA or you've got a Chrysler setup. All we need is basically a tack signal to come out. The other two wires that get hooked up are your battery positive, your battery ground, and then a switch 12 volts. There's 4 wires to hook up. I mean, it's pretty simplistic in that regard. Now when it comes down to the tuning side of things, a few basic simple questions. Cubic inches. What size is your motor?
Pretty tough.
Say again?
Pretty tough so far.
Yeah, tough question. Next one comes into cam profile. This is where you ask somebody, hey, what's the cam profile in your motor? 98% of the time, they're going to say, I have no freaking clue. I have no idea. Well, then how do you program that? So what we've done is we've integrated in 3 simple questions. Is it a stock cam? Is it a mild cam? Or is it a wild cam? That's it. With the self-learn side of things in the wideband O2, it allows us to be able to calibrate via an air-fuel ratio. So we have 25 calibrations that are built into the ECU. So even if you choose the wrong cam completely, it's still going to program to the base calibration what is targeting on that air-fuel ratio.
It will eventually figure it out. It's just going to take it longer to get there.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, question is how many oxygen sensors? We only have 1 oxygen sensor. We only need to look, because it's a batch fire system, which basically means you're firing all at once. You've got X pattern. We only need to look at 1 bank. We're taking an average. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep. Because if you think about it, your motor's got 2 banks, and each one of them's basically its own. Each cylinder is its own little engine, and if you can balance that, well, each one is different, yes. But when we're talking the horsepower that you're referencing here, it's not as critical as when you get into the higher horsepower. So if we're only a max of 600 horse. This isn't going to be a 1,000 horsepower scenario where we're putting boost to it, nitrous, and that type of setup. No, it's one bank. Yeah, yeah, just one bank right
Currently,
now.
the way the software is now. It would just take the two and look at the average again.
Yeah.
It's just taking an average of the readings also.
Where we're locating the bung side of things is down in the collector to make sure you get the full 4 banks. We don't want to go in just one pipe. That way you can at least get an average of 4 cylinders versus the 8. Next questions you run into is what fuel system are you running? Are you running returnless? Are you running return style? Are you running the fuel sump? So you just literally, just like touch the screen, next. In this case, we're running the sump, hit next. Those are your 3 questions. That's it. Your ignition type, your last question, excuse me, is are you running a CD ignition box? It's just yes or no. You don't have to have one. The only reason we ask is because of multiple spark discharge, it'll throw a signal off on your tach signal. That's the only reason we ask. You hit go, it does a base calibration. It asks you to fire it up. As soon as you start it up, it's going to run a little rough. In about 30 seconds, it'll start smoothing out, and you'll end up with a nice smooth idle. Literally, it's that quick. It'll ask you to let it warm up to operating temperature. Then you'll go into some idle settings. Where do you want your desired idle to be? You want it 600, 800, and it's just touchscreen, up or down. And then it'll walk you through those instructions, and then it says take it out and drive it. And the more you drive it, the more it learns, and then the more it learns, the better it runs. And it's just that simple.
The biggest thing that I try to tell people when they get into this system is they'll call in and say, hey, I just did this and it's doing this. The question I ask is, have you ever had the car in that situation before? If you've never driven the car up that mountain and with this system on it, it hasn't learned it yet. Take it up the mountain, let it learn. It has to be put through those situations to make itself better. So you have to put it through its paces. If you just drive it around the block every time you take it out, all it knows is driving around the block.
It's those load ranges that it needs to go through. So as you're cruising along and you have a slight hill, right? That throws load on the motor. It needs to learn through that. As you climb a hill, as Mike says, the same type of thing. As you're decelling, as you're going down a hill, same type of thing. It's just a learning process. It just depends on how many times you romped on it prior to the track. If you took it out and you put it to the wood and you did, basically a whole shot pass down the road, no, it's not. It's going to run it's got that knowledge. It's going to, because it doesn't know that. Yeah.
So do it on the street a couple times before you hit
That's
the
right.
track.
Yeah, pre-stage it in front of the house.
That's right. Now, I will say, not to jump ahead of Kerry, but I will say that there are user controls that are in the tablet in self-learning mode that you have the capability of changing. So if I'm going to the drag strip and I want to dump fuel in this thing, okay, you can go in there and you can say at wide open throttle, I want this thing to be 11.2.
Yep.
And let it go.
Yeah, there's three categories that you can adjust: idle, cruise, and wide open throttle. So if your idle's too rich, you can lean that up. If you're mid-range, you want to get mileage. You're driving the thing down the road, right? Gas isn't any cheaper. Let's figure out how to get the most mileage out of it. You can lean that up. It's
Bluetooth.
Wireless. It's Bluetooth. Yep.
No, I know on one of our vehicles that one of our calibration engineers works with out in California, the Nova, what is it, 70 Nova. He's gotten as good on freeway with it by using the tablet, cutting the air-fuel ratio back. He's been getting, 25, 26 miles a gallon out of a 70 Nova.
350.
Just 350.
Stock
No,
it's 350, yeah. But it's, I was just going to say.
Yeah. And he says he gets up on the freeway and he just dials the thing back to 14.1 and lets it go.
We talked a little bit about the sump. Hold on just a second. Talked a little bit about the sump. This gives you the exploded view side of things with the floats to be able to actually control the fuel flow coming inbound. The internal bypass, so it's actually a return style pump that's in here, but it's just returning back into the sump itself. And then the utilizing a stock sock, fuel pump itself, the wiring harness, and the rest of it's pretty straightforward from there. Two different pressures, a 3605 and a 3607, basically a 58 psi and a 49 psi. Go ahead, please. Any other questions on the E-Street EFI? No? Okay.
And I think that one thing I wanted to add to the East 3 DFI with the tablet system is everybody has one of these, okay? And we are in process of working on, probably won't be out, if it's out this year, it'll be late this year, an app that you will be able to download.
Yeah.
You won't need the tablet to come with the system. You can download it and run it through your phone. Just be Android only. Won't be available for Apple, or you want that to be Android only, but it'll be an app that you can put on your phone. As soon as we launched this, that was the first question. Oh, can I do it on my phone? Well, yeah. You didn't want it.
Yeah. The key thing too with the tablet is some people don't want the tablet. Obviously, price is keying on a lot of different things. If we can get it this way, and then we can offer it without a tablet, that's a few $100 savings.
It's in the work. It's just it's writing this offer. It takes time.
All right, we need to move right along. We're running out of time. Just a couple of quick things on fuel pumps. We've got a multitude of different fuel pumps here, so I apologize. We're going to kind of scroll through these here a little bit. We've got a carbureted style fuel pump. The top one there, it's a 6.5 PSI, 160 gallon per hour. It's a very quiet pump. You could compare that to a Holly Black, except ours is quiet, and I think you all know the rest on that story. Yeah. The EFI application side of things, we've got the standard log style pump there, 80 gallon per hour pump at 45 PSI. And then we also have a different secondary version that's 120 gallon per hour pump at 45 PSI, dash 12 inlets and outlets. Go ahead. And then we have a micro style. This is our slim line application. And what this is just obviously exactly what it says. It's for tight areas, tight spots. A lot of times trying to find a spot to mount a fuel pump can be challenging, especially with some of the bigger pumps that are out there. This is a slim line version that allows you to have good solid flow up to about 600 horse naturally aspirated, maybe pushing 7.
And this can also be mounted in a fuel cell.
What's that? Yeah. Well, that helps us keep the noise down too. Try to anyway. Fire away next. Regulator side of things. We have a few different regulators that we're introducing. All of these are going to have gauge ports on it, so you can actually see your PSI. The top one there is an adjustable one that is a deadhead style. Secondary one has six AN inlets and outlets, and then it's a return style. So you'll see a vacuum reference there as well. Go ahead to the next. Going into some of our filters, these are a universal type filter. You'll see a white stripe sitting there on every one of those. And this is one of those ideas that's kind of a head slapper. You're like, simple, stupid. But what it is that's a clean stripe. How do you know when a black filter is dirty? That's the question. So when that white area gets dark, you know it's time to clean it. Same with the red, same with the blue as well. The white obviously is the white already. That is actually, we have a patent pending on that. That's one of those where it's like, nobody thought of that before? Okay, we'll take it. Go ahead on to the next one. We're offering that also with 14-inch around, obviously 5 1/8 inch air cleaner setups. You can get just the lids separately, and you can get the elements separately as well. We're not trying to be the air filter market by any means. We know there's a lot of players in that market. We just want to offer something that's unique and a little bit different.
One of the nice things with the filters, both the cones and the 14-inch round, is the actual cotton material itself is dyed. So it isn't the oil, it's the material that's dyed, so the color stays a lot better.
Go ahead to the next one. A couple of other new accessory items. We have our Elite 2 series. This is going to be air cleaners and valve covers. We have our Elite series right now that has the Allen heads kind of bolt pattern on top. We've wiped that out and done a clean look, and that's what the Elite 2 is. We've got valve covers tall and short for small block Chevy and talls for small block Fords, and then the 14-inch air cleaner. And that'll be in aluminum lids. Those are all aluminum as well. There's nothing stamped steel there. Go ahead. And then we have our Racing series. This is a completely new look for us. It's all black powder coated. Again, all aluminum, both top and bases. And then your valve covers are the same applications.
The lines that you see there in the Edelbrock Racing are raised, and there's a diamond cut across the top. It's really slick.
It's a really nice piece.
Really clean look. And they're heavy. They're die-cast aluminum, so they're very heavy.
Very heavy. I've got them at the booth. You can see. And then our last one we have is our Classic series. We have this currently. What this is broadening out the application base, and then also offering it in a different finish. It's a satin, old school looking finish. That's what this is. Sandcasting. We have the black and polished right now, and we're offering them in just the Classic series.